When I woke up from anesthesia and saw those green eyes staring at me, my heart nearly stopped. It wasn't possible. My daughter had died 35 years ago, or at least that's what they told me, but there she was, or someone identical to her, wearing a white lab coat with the name Dr. Sarah Mitchell embroidered on it, the last name of the man who abandoned me when I was pregnant. In that moment, my entire life collapsed, and I knew something terrible had happened decades ago. But before we get into the story, please support us by liking and subscribing right now. I also want to say hi. Leave your name, city, and the word present in the comments. I want to know where you're listening from, even in faraway places. My name is Evelyn Thompson. I'm 65 years old, and for 35 years I lived with a hole in my chest that nothing could fill. I thought it was the grief of losing a newborn daughter. But it was something much worse, the pain of being lied to, manipulated, and robbed of my own flesh and blood. It all started on an ordinary Tuesday in October. I was at St. Jude's Medical Center in Portland, Oregon, waiting for gallbladder surgery. Nothing serious, the doctor said. Routine procedure. But when you're 65, nothing in a hospital feels routine. Every test, every needle, every beeping machine reminds you that time is running out and your body isn't what it used to be. The nurse took me to the pre-op room at 7 in the morning. The place was cold and sterile, with flickering fluorescent lights that made everyone look half dead. I was nervous, I won't lie. Not so much about the surgery itself, but about the loneliness. Nobody was waiting for me in the lobby. My only son, Michael, had died 5 years ago in a car accident. My husband, Robert, passed 2 years later. His heart just gave up, from grief, I think. I was alone in the world. No children, no grandkids, nobody who cared whether I made it out of that operating room or not. The nurse adjusted the IV in my vein and gave me one of those professional smiles that doesn't actually comfort anyone. She told me the surgeon would be in shortly, that I was in good hands. At least it was a woman. Somehow that made me feel a little better. I closed my eyes, trying to calm my nerves, when I heard the door open. Firm footsteps. A woman's voice talking quietly with the nurse about my pre-op labs. Then she stepped closer to the gurney. When she introduced herself as Dr. Mitchell and said she'd be doing my procedure, I opened my eyes, and my world stopped. Those eyes, green, with a tiny golden fleck in the right one. Exactly like my daughter's. The daughter I lost 35 years ago, 3 days after she was born. The daughter I barely got to hold before they told me she'd stopped breathing during the night. But it wasn't just the eyes. It was everything. The shape of her face, the curve of her jaw, even that tiny dimple in her left cheek that only showed when she spoke. I couldn't breathe. She looked at me with concern, asked if I was okay. My blood pressure was spiking, she said. I tried to answer, but the words wouldn't come. All I could manage was a whisper about her eyes, her last name. For just a second, something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe. Or fear. But then the professional mask came back. She told me Mitchell was a common name, that I was probably just nervous about the surgery. Completely normal, she said. But nothing about this was normal. I tried to sit up, tried to say more, but the anesthesiologist was already there. He told me he was starting the sedation, asked me to count down from 10. I tried to protest, to explain, but it was too late. The drugs hit my veins like ice water. My tongue went heavy, my vision blurred. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me were those green eyes staring down at me, and in them I saw something that looked an awful lot like fear. When I came to in the recovery room, everything hurt. My throat was dry as sand. My whole body ached. A different nurse was checking my vitals, telling me the surgery went well. I asked for Dr. Mitchell right away. My voice came out raspy and desperate. The nurse said she'd already finished her shift, but left detailed instructions for my care. I'd be just fine, she promised. But my mind was anything but fine. Even through the fog of leftover anesthesia, one thing was crystal clear. I had to find out who that woman was. I needed to know if I was losing my mind or if my mother's instinct was screaming the truth my brain refused to accept. I spent 2 days in that hospital asking every nurse and aide who came through about Dr. Mitchell. Could I see her? Could someone tell her I needed to speak with her? The answer was always the same. She was in surgery. She was off duty. She was busy with other patients. When they finally discharged me, my daughter-in-law Jennifer came to pick me up. She was Michael's widow, 38 years old, and she'd never quite forgiven me for what she called smothering my son with too much love. Our relationship had been cold for years, but she was the only family I had left. She barely looked at me as she scrolled through her phone, asked if I was ready to go. I told her I needed to talk to her about something important. She sighed that long, tired sigh she always gave when I tried to have a conversation. The doctor said I needed rest, not stress. I told her anyway, about the surgeon, about how she looked exactly like my daughter, the daughter who died. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush me. When Jennifer finally looked up from her phone, I could see it in her face. She thought I'd finally lost it. She said I was confused. The anesthesia was still in my system. I was seeing things that weren't there. I raised my voice then, told her I wasn't confused. I'd seen it with my own eyes, the same face, the same eyes, even the dimple. And her last name was Mitchell. Jennifer shook her head, grabbed my bag. Mitchell was the name of the man who'd left me pregnant 35 years ago, she said. That didn't mean anything. I needed to go home, get some sleep, and stop making up stories. But I wasn't making up stories. Every cell in my body was screaming that something was wrong. Something had been hidden from me for decades, and I was going to find out what it was, even if it killed me. Friends, every story I tell you is released every day, but YouTube will only show them to you if you tap the red subscribe button. Please do it now while I'm speaking. Tap subscribe, turn on notifications, and you'll never miss a story. Have you done it yet? Thank you. The first few days at Jennifer's house were torture. She'd set me up in the guest room, the room in what used to be my house, the house Robert and I had to sell to pay Michael's medical bills. She'd leave meals outside my door and barely say 2 words to me. I felt like a burden, just another thing on her to-do list. But I couldn't stop thinking about Dr. Mitchell. At night, when the house went quiet, I'd lie awake replaying every detail. Her eyes, the way she tilted her head, even her voice, it all felt so familiar, like a memory buried deep that my brain wouldn't let go of. On the 4th day, after Jennifer left for work, I grabbed my old laptop. My hands shook as I typed, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, surgeon, St. Jude's Medical Center, Portland, Oregon. The results popped up fast, a professional profile with a photo. I clicked on it, barely breathing. And there she was. It wasn't just a resemblance, it was impossible to ignore. I pulled out the only photo I had of my baby, taken just hours after she was born, kept in my wallet for 35 years. I held it up next to the screen, the same eyes, the same face, the same dimple. Tears came before I could stop them. Not sad tears, something more complicated. Anger, confusion, and buried underneath it all, a tiny, dangerous spark of hope. I kept reading. 35 years old. The exact age my daughter would be. Graduated from University of Washington Medical School. Specialized in general surgery. But one line at the end made me freeze. Adopted at birth, Dr. Mitchell always knew she wanted to help people, inspired by the parents who chose her. Adopted at birth. My daughter died 3 days after she was born. At least that's what they told me. I started digging for anything about adoptions in Portland in 1988. That's when I found it, an old newspaper article from 1995 about a scandal at St. Jude's. A doctor named Dr. James Mitchell under investigation for problems with adoption procedures. Nothing was ever proven. Cases got dismissed. But there were rumors. Private adoptions for big money, bypassing all the legal rules. Dr. James Mitchell, the same last name. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might have another medical emergency right there. James Mitchell was the man who got me pregnant. The man who promised to marry me and disappeared when I told him I was having twins. He was an OB/GYN at St. Jude's. He delivered my babies. I felt like the floor had opened up beneath me. I kept searching, hands trembling so bad I could barely type. Dr. James Mitchell died in 2015, pancreatic cancer. But what made me gasp out loud was finding out he'd adopted a baby girl in 1988. A baby whose background he never explained. A baby who was now a 35-year-old surgeon with my daughter's face. I needed proof, real proof, before I said anything to anyone, before I looked like some crazy old woman with wild theories. I called St. Jude's medical records, asked for copies of my delivery records from 1988. The woman on the phone said those records were 35 years old. They'd have to check if they even still had them. Many older files had been destroyed. It could take weeks. I didn't have weeks. I needed answers now. Then I thought of something else. The cemetery. If my daughter really died, there'd be a grave, a burial record, something physical. I called Skyview Memorial Park, where they told me my baby was buried. A woman with a kind voice answered. I asked about a burial in December 1988. The name would be Baby Thompson. I heard typing. She was checking. My heart beat so loud I could hear it in my ears. Then she said it. They had a record of a plot purchased that date in James Mitchell's name, but no burial record attached to it. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I asked what she meant. She explained the plot was bought but apparently never used. Sometimes families change their minds about the location. But they told me my daughter was buried there. I'd believed it for 35 years. The woman apologized, said according to their records, no burial ever happened in that plot. I hung up, hands shaking so hard I dropped the phone. There was no body. There never was. They told me my daughter was buried, but it was a lie, just like everything else. Jennifer found me that night sitting in the dark, still holding the phone. She asked what was wrong. I told her. My daughter wasn't dead. When she asked who I was talking about, it all came spilling out. My daughter, my baby. They lied to me about everything. Jennifer turned on the light, looking at me with worry in her eyes. I told her the whole thing, Dr. Mitchell, the newspaper article, the missing burial record. All of it came out in a rush of words I'd been holding back for days. By the time I finished, Jennifer had gone pale. She said it was impossible, that I was accusing a dead doctor of stealing my daughter and raising her as his own. Did I realize how that sounded? I told her it sounded like the truth. Jennifer sat down heavy in the chair. Even if it were true, what was I planning to do? There was no proof. I said I'd get proof. I'd do a DNA test. She asked how I planned to do that. Walk up to this woman and ask for a sample? If I had to, yes. Jennifer said the woman would think I was insane. I said I didn't care. I'd lost 35 years with my daughter. 35 years I could never get back. If there was even the smallest chance she was alive, I had to know. Jennifer went quiet for a long time. Then she surprised me. She said she'd help. I stared at her. She would? She told me Michael always said I had a right to know the truth about what happened to my daughter. He knew it haunted me, even though I never talked about it. He'd wanted to investigate, wanted to find answers, but he died before he got the chance. I didn't know he knew. Tears started falling. Jennifer's eyes filled up too. She said Michael knew a lot of things, and he loved me much more than I ever realized. That night, for the first time in 5 years, Jennifer and I really talked. She told me about conversations she'd had with Michael, how he noticed my quiet pain, how he wanted to help but didn't know how. And I finally understood I wasn't alone in this. Together, we started making a plan. The next morning, Jennifer called the hospital. She pretended to be my grateful daughter, wanting to personally thank the surgeon who saved her mother's life. After some back and forth, she got what we needed. Dr. Mitchell worked Tuesdays and Thursdays. Usually grabbed lunch at the cafe down the street around noon. It was Thursday. We had a few hours. Jennifer asked if I was sure about this as she helped me get dressed. I was still recovering, moving slow and careful. I told her I'd never been more sure of anything in my life. By 11:30, we were parked outside the cafe. My stomach was in knots, partly nerves, partly post-surgery pain. I should have been home in bed, but rest was the last thing on my mind. Jennifer pointed. There she was, leaving the hospital in scrubs with a jacket thrown over them, walking alone, looking at her phone. Jennifer looked at me. Now? Now. We got out of the car. Every step sent a sharp pain through my abdomen, but I kept moving. Dr. Mitchell was just entering the cafe when I reached her. I called her name. She turned around, surprised. When she saw me, something crossed her face fast. Recognition, maybe? Or fear. She asked what I was doing there, said I should be home recovering. I told her I needed to talk. Please. She looked around, clearly uncomfortable. Started saying something about how any questions could go through my regular doctor. I cut her off, told her this wasn't about the surgery. It was about 1988. I watched the color drain right out of her face. She barely whispered it. 1988? December 1988, I said. St. Jude's Hospital. A twin delivery. Dr. James Mitchell. She went completely still. For a long moment, we just stood there on that sidewalk, with 35 years of lies hanging in the air between us. She finally asked how I knew that name. Her voice was shaking. I told her he was my doctor. And one of the babies born that day was my daughter. She caught the past tense. Was? They said she died, I told her. But she didn't, did she? Dr. Mitchell glanced at Jennifer, then back at me. Said she didn't know what I was talking about. So I laid it out. She was adopted at birth. Her adoptive father was Dr. James Mitchell. She was 35 years old, born December 1988. She started to say that didn't mean anything, but I kept going. Told her about the dimple on her left cheek, the green eyes with the gold fleck, exactly like the baby I held for 3 hours before they took her away, claiming she needed the NICU. The doctor was trembling now. I begged her, said I just needed the truth, needed to know if my daughter was alive. She stayed quiet so long, I thought she'd just walk away. But then she pointed to a bench nearby, suggested we sit. We walked over in silence. Jennifer hung back, giving us space. Dr. Mitchell sat down and stared at her hands for the longest time. Then she started talking. She'd always known she was adopted. Her father, James Mitchell, never hid it. But he never wanted to discuss her biological mother either. Said the woman was too young, wasn't ready, gave her up because she wanted her to have a better life. I felt tears burning, but held them back. She kept going. Said she always felt there was more to the story, especially as she got older and started asking questions. Her father would get defensive, nervous, change the subject fast. When he died, she found things. Hidden documents in his office. An original birth certificate with a different name, Baby Girl Thompson. My heart stopped. She said there was also a death certificate for the same baby, dated 3 days after birth, signed by Dr. Mitchell himself. I whispered it. He forged a death certificate. Apparently so, she said. And there was more. Letters, documents, and a diary. A diary? She nodded, wiping tears that had started falling. Her father wrote everything down. He couldn't have children. His wife had died years before. He was alone, desperate. Then I showed up, pregnant, single, no family support. The truth hit me in waves. He planned it all from the start, she said. When I gave birth to twins, he told me only one survived, forged all the records, took her home. I could barely get the words out. My God. She said she didn't want to believe it. Spent 2 years looking for another explanation. Any explanation. But the more she dug, the more obvious it became. So she came to work at St. Jude's, the same hospital where she was born. Looking for answers, maybe. Or punishment. And then I showed up on her surgical schedule. She gave a sad laugh. Said when she saw my name on the list, she almost canceled. But she couldn't. Had to see me. Had to know. If I was her mother, I finished. Yes. We sat in silence, letting that confession settle between us. I finally spoke. Told her I never gave her up. Never. They stole her from me. She was crying freely now. Said she was sorry. So sorry. I reached out, took her hand. Told her it wasn't her fault. None of it was. But she grew up with him, she said. Called him Dad. Loved him. I squeezed her hand. She was a child. Children can't be blamed for what adults do. We sat there holding hands, two strangers who were mother and daughter, trying to make sense of 35 years of lies on a Thursday afternoon. She asked what we did now. DNA test, I said, to be absolutely sure. She nodded. Yes, we needed to be sure. And after that, I said, we'd figure out how to move forward. If you want to know how this story ends and discover many more, hit the red subscribe button. It's free and it helps me a lot. The DNA test took 5 days, 5 days that felt like 5 years. Dr. Mitchell, Sarah, she asked me to call her Sarah, and I exchanged numbers, but neither of us knew what to say. How do you talk to someone who might be your lost daughter? How do you fill 35 years with text messages? Jennifer stayed by my side the whole time. She started researching everything about Dr. James Mitchell. Turned out he wasn't the only doctor suspected of shady adoptions back in the 80s. There was a pattern. Young mothers with nobody to support them. Babies who supposedly didn't make it. Rich families desperate for children. A black market for babies running right inside a respected hospital. One night Jennifer showed me another old article. I asked how many. How many mothers went through this? She didn't know. The records got destroyed during a hospital audit in 1996. Real convenient timing. It was all so cruel, so calculated, and I'd been just another victim. On day 5, Sarah called. The results came in, she said. My heart stopped. And, long pause. Then, with her voice breaking, 99.9% probability of maternity. I dropped the phone. Jennifer picked it up, talked to Sarah while I just sat there shaking and crying. 35 years of pain finally starting to make sense. My daughter was alive. My baby hadn't died. Everything they told me was a lie, but she was alive. Sarah came over that night. When the door opened and I saw her standing there, not as a doctor but just as a scared, confused woman, something inside me broke and healed at the same time. She said hi softly. I said hi, sweetheart. And then we were holding each other, sobbing, trying to make up for 35 years of lost hugs in one moment. Jennifer stayed back, crying too, giving us space but not leaving us alone. When we finally let go, Sarah sat on the couch and pulled out a large envelope. Said she'd brought her father's diaries. Thought I should read them. I wasn't sure I wanted to. She understood. But there were things in there about my other child. My heart squeezed. Michael? No, she said. My other baby, the twin. The world stopped. What? I had twins, she reminded me. She'd thought her twin brother actually died. But according to the diaries, he was also given up for adoption. To another family. I felt like I was falling into a bottomless hole. Both of them? He took both? Sarah nodded through her tears. He said it would be easier to convince me the babies died if I never saw either one alive. So he separated them right away. Kept her. Gave her brother to a family in Seattle. Seattle, I repeated like a robot. There was a name in the diary. David Peterson. He'd be 35 now, too. I looked at Jennifer. She'd gone white as a ghost. Jennifer said it slowly. I might have 2 living children. Too much information to process. For 35 years, I thought I'd lost 2 babies. Then I found out one was alive. And now, Sarah said we had to find him. He deserved the truth just like she did. How would we find him? She'd already started looking. pulled out her laptop, started typing. David Peterson, born December 1988 in Portland, raised in Seattle. Several results, but she was filtering by age and location. She worked in silence, fingers flying, then stopped. Found him. She turned the screen toward me. A LinkedIn profile photo. A man about 35, dark hair, blue eyes, and he had Michael's nose, Robert's face shape. I whispered it. That's him. I know it's him. Sarah read his bio out loud. Civil engineer, lives in Tacoma, married, 2 kids. I had grandchildren I'd never met. Jennifer asked what we did now. Sarah said she'd reach out to him. I asked why her. She explained. If a strange 65-year-old woman called claiming to be his biological mother, he'd think it was a scam. But another adoptee, same age, same situation, he might at least listen. She was right, but the thought of waiting longer, of not being able to call my son and tell him I was his mother, felt like torture. Sarah sent a message that night through LinkedIn, short and direct. Told him she believed they were adopted through similar circumstances in 1988 at St. Jude's in Portland. Needed to talk about something important. About their biological mother. 3 days passed. Nothing. 3 days where I barely slept, barely ate. Just waited. Then Tuesday morning, Sarah called. He responded, she said. What did he say? He wanted to talk. Video call. Tonight. That night at 8, we gathered in Jennifer's living room. Sarah set up her laptop. Jennifer sat beside me, holding my hand. The call rang. Sarah answered. And there he was, David Peterson, my son. The baby I thought I'd lost 35 years ago. He looked nervous, suspicious, confirmed Sarah's name when she answered. She thanked him for taking the call, took a deep breath, then turned the laptop toward me. He looked confused, asked who I was. I told him. My voice shook. My name is Evelyn Thompson, and I'm your biological mother. The silence that followed was complete. David stared at me through the screen. I watched his expression change, confusion to disbelief, to something that looked like anger. He asked if this was some kind of joke. Sarah jumped in, said she knew it seemed impossible, but he cut her off. Wanted to know what she meant when she said they were adopted the same way. So Sarah told him everything. Dr. James Mitchell, the illegal adoptions, the forged death certificates, how she discovered it all after her adoptive father died. David got paler with every word. He said it was insane. I agreed it sounded that way, but it was true. I'd done a DNA test with Sarah, confirmed she was my daughter, and if he'd take a test too. He stopped me, asked why he'd do that, why he'd believe any of this. He had parents, good parents who loved and raised him. I told him I wasn't trying to take that away. His voice got hard then. Asked what I wanted. Me showing up after 35 years saying he was my son, expecting what? That he'd just accept it and we'd all be one big happy family? The words stung, but I understood. He had every right to be angry, confused, scared. I told him I just wanted him to know the truth, that he was taken from me. I didn't give him up, would never have given him up. They told me he died, and I believed it for 35 years. He fired back, said he spent 35 years with parents who loved him, parents who chose him. Sarah said it quietly but firmly. They bought you. Sorry to be blunt, but that's what happened. We were sold like merchandise. David rubbed his face. Said his parents didn't know. They'd never do something like that. I agreed they probably didn't know all the details. But didn't he want the truth? Didn't he want to know where he really came from? Long silence. Then he said he needed time to process. I asked how much time. He didn't know. Days, weeks, maybe never. Then he looked right at me through the screen. Said I might have given birth to him, but that didn't make me his mother. The call ended. I stared at the black screen, feeling hollowed out. Sarah put her hand on my shoulder, said he'd come around, just needed time. I asked what if he didn't. Then we'd respect his choice, she said. But she'd keep trying. Jennifer hugged me, said at least I had Sarah. Yes, I had Sarah. After 35 years thinking I was completely alone, I had a daughter. But David's rejection hurt in ways I didn't expect. Sarah started coming over regularly. At first it was awkward, neither of us knowing how to act. How do you build a mother-daughter relationship when the daughter's already 35? But slowly, we found our way. She told me about her life, her work as a surgeon, growing up with an obsessive single father. I told her about Michael, raising him alone, the emptiness his death left behind. One afternoon over coffee, she asked if I had photos of him. I pulled out my phone, showed her Michael at 5, missing his front teeth, Michael at 10 with his first baseball trophy, Michael at 25 on his wedding day with Jennifer. Sarah studied every photo like she was memorizing the brother she never knew. She said he looked happy. He was, I told her. Pure light. Until the accident. She asked how it happened. Never easy to talk about. A drunk driver. Michael, coming home from work, died instantly. Sarah took my hand. Said she was sorry. I told her she would have liked him, and he would have loved having a sister. And a brother, she added softly. Asked if I thought David would change his mind. I said I didn't know, but I hope so. 2 weeks after the video call, Sarah got an email from David. He'd do the DNA test. Made it clear that didn't mean he wanted a relationship. It was something. Results came back in 5 days. Positive, 99.9% probability of maternity. I had 2 living biological children. Sarah tried calling David with the news. No answer. Sent texts. Nothing. Finally, a week later, a short email. He'd gotten the results. Needed more time. Always more time. But at least he hadn't disappeared completely. Sarah started bringing me into her life. I met her friends, colleagues from the hospital. She took me to dinner, movies, walks when I felt strong enough. Strange and wonderful at the same time. I'd missed 35 years, but I had this. I had now. 3 months after we found out the truth, Sarah came to me with an idea. She wanted to sue the hospital. Jennifer and I both stared. Sue? Yes, for what they did, for what her father did using their resources, for the lives they destroyed. I pointed out her father was dead. The hospital had changed hands several times. She knew, but they were still responsible. And more important, there were other victims. Jennifer's research showed at least 10 other suspicious cases. 10 other mothers who might not know their children were alive. Jennifer leaned forward, asked if she wanted to find them. Yes, Sarah wanted to expose everything. Let people know what happened, help other families reunite. I looked at my daughter, this strong, determined woman, and felt pride swell in my chest. Then let's do it, I said. Finding a lawyer took time. Most said the case was too old, not enough evidence. Suing a hospital for something 35 years ago was impossible. But we finally found someone willing to try. Jonathan Reeves, a lawyer who specialized in medical cases and illegal adoptions. He'd seen similar situations before. He warned us from the start. It wouldn't be easy. The hospital would fight hard. They'd claim James Mitchell acted alone. They'd say it was too long ago to matter now. Sarah asked if it was even possible. Possible, yes, he said. Likely to win? That depended on how much evidence we could gather. We spent months collecting everything we could find. James Mitchell's diaries, old medical records, statements from retired hospital workers who remembered strange things happening in the maternity ward back then. And we found other mothers. First was Carol Jensen, 70 years old now. She'd given birth to a boy in 1987. They told her the baby was stillborn. When Sarah contacted her with our story, she started sobbing on the phone, said she always knew something was wrong, but nobody believed her. We did DNA tests, found her son in Oregon. He was 37 now, a teacher with his own family. Watching them meet for the first time was beautiful and heartbreaking all at once. then Linda Martinez, then Patricia O'Brien, then 3 more. Every story was different, but the pattern stayed the same. Young mothers, alone or struggling, babies supposedly dead, no body to bury. James Mitchell always involved. We filed the lawsuit in January, Evelyn Thompson and others versus Mercy Hospital. We asked for money, yes. But more than that, we wanted them to admit what happened, to apologize publicly. The news spread fast. Local papers picked it up, then national ones. We became the Stolen Mothers of Portland. Our story was everywhere. That's when David finally reached out again. Sarah got his call on a Tuesday night. She was at my house, put it on speaker so I could hear. He'd seen the news, he said. No greeting, just that, Sarah confirmed. Yes, we were suing the hospital where he was born. He asked why. Because what they did was wrong, she told him. Because other families deserved the truth. Silence on the line. Then he said his adoptive parents were devastated. They didn't know. Really didn't know the adoption wasn't legal. Sarah said gently that nobody was blaming them. But how were they supposed to live with this? He asked. How was he supposed to live with it? Knowing his whole life was built on a lie? I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Told him it wasn't a lie. His parents loved him. That was real. Their love was always real. But you're my biological mother, he said, and I don't even know how to feel about that. I told him he didn't have to know right now. No timeline, no right or wrong way to handle it. Then he said something that made my heart stop. He had kids, 2 boys, 6 and 8. They had a grandmother who adored them, his adoptive mom. How did he explain there was another grandmother? Hearing about my grandsons, boys I'd never seen, who didn't know I existed, it nearly broke me. I told him he didn't have to explain anything yet, but when he was ready, I'd love to meet them. Long silence. Then he said he wasn't promising anything. I know, I said. But maybe we could meet in person, he continued. Him, me, Sarah. Just talk. Tears started falling. I said I'd love that more than anything. We set it for the following Saturday. Public park in Portland, halfway between Tacoma and where I was. Neutral ground. That week felt endless. I changed outfits 20 times. How do you dress to meet the son you held for 3 days before he was stolen? Jennifer helped me choose something simple. Jeans, light blue sweater, told me to just be myself. Sarah picked me up Saturday morning at 10. She was nervous too, trying to hide it. She asked how I was feeling. Terrified, I said. She laughed, but it came out tense. Me too. We got to the park 15 minutes early. Sat on a bench near the playground, watching kids run and scream, parents pushing swings. Then I saw him. David Peterson, walking toward us, hands in pockets, face tight. He looked just like his photos, but seeing someone in person is always different. Sarah and I stood up. For a moment, the 3 of us just stood there. Hi, he said finally. Hi, Sarah and I said together. I thanked him for coming. He shrugged, said he still didn't know if this was a good idea. Sarah suggested we just sit and talk. No pressure. David hesitated, then nodded. We sat on the bench, him on one end, Sarah in the middle, me on the other. He started with something that might have been a joke. Asked if we sued hospitals together now. I treated it like humor. Something like that, I said. He wanted to know why. Why not just move on, Sarah explained. Other families out there. Other mothers who didn't know. Other children who didn't know the truth. He asked if reopening those wounds would really help anyone. I said the truth was always worth it, even when it hurt. David stared at the playground, watched a little girl trying to climb the slide, said his kids looked like that, full of energy, always laughing. I asked if he had photos. He hesitated, then showed me on his phone. 2 beautiful boys, one with dark hair like his, one blonde. They're beautiful, I whispered. Yeah, he said. They are. Then put his phone away. Said they had grandparents who loved them. His adoptive parents were always there. Birthday parties, soccer games, everything. I understood what he wasn't saying. No room for me. I told him I didn't want to take anything away. Didn't want to replace anyone or cause problems. Just wanted him to know there was another person in the world who loved him. Always had, even without knowing where he was. Something softened in his face then. He asked if it was hard for me. All those years thinking he was dead. Harder than I could say, I told him. I had Michael, loved him completely, but there was always a hole, always the what if. He asked about Michael. I told him. Car accident 5 years ago. He said he was sorry. We sat quiet for a bit. Then David mentioned the lawsuit. Said he'd read about it, about the other families. There were a lot. At least 15 we'd found, Sarah confirmed. He asked if they all reunited. Most of them, Sarah said. Some of the children really had died. We had to tell 3 mothers that terrible truth, but the others were alive. David nodded slowly. Said that must mean a lot to them. Everything, I said. We spent another hour just talking. Not deep stuff, just conversation. David told me about his work, meeting his wife, being a father. I told him about Michael, raising him alone, losing Robert. Sarah talked about medicine and why she chose surgery. When it was time to go, David stood up, thanked me for today. I thanked him for coming. He hesitated, said, maybe we could do this again, in a few weeks. My heart jumped. I'd love that, I said. No promises about anything else, he added. Just this, talking sometimes. Just this is more than I ever hoped for, I told him. He nodded and walked away. Sarah hugged me as soon as he was out of sight. Said that went well. Did it? Yes, she said. He came. He talked. He wants to see us again. Those are big steps. She called me Mom. She'd started doing that the past few weeks. Every time my heart got a little warmer. Let's go home, she said. And for the first time in decades, home didn't feel empty. It felt like where I belonged. The lawsuit moved slowly over the next months. There were depositions, lawyer meetings, court sessions. The hospital fought every step. They denied knowing anything, blamed it all on the dead Dr. Mitchell. But we had evidence. Documents showing supervisors had been warned about problems. Witnesses who saw suspicious things but got threatened with firing if they spoke up. A clear pattern that the hospital let happen. And we had stories. 15 families. 15 shattered lives. 15 reunions that never should have been necessary. The media loved it. We were everywhere. TV shows, podcasts, magazines. The stolen mothers scandal went national, then international. Some people supported us. Others said we were opening old wounds for money. Online comments got cruel sometimes, but Sarah taught me not to read them. Focus on what matters, she said. Focus on the families we helped. David started visiting once a month, always the same park, always a few hours. He'd bring photos of the boys, tell stories about them. He wasn't ready to introduce me yet, but he was letting me in, bit by bit. Sarah and I grew closer every day. She started coming for Sunday dinner at Jennifer's. We'd cook together, talk, laugh. Jennifer changed too. That anger and resentment she'd carried since Michael died seemed to fade. One night after Sarah left, Jennifer told me Michael would be happy seeing me like this, rebuilding my family. He always wanted that for me. I asked if she really thought so. She knew, she said. He'd told her before he died. His biggest sadness was leaving me alone. Tears stung my eyes. I hadn't known he said that. He loved me so much, Jennifer said. More than she understood while he was alive. We hugged, years of hurt between us finally starting to heal. In June, 10 months after everything started, the hospital made an offer. Jonathan Reeves called us all for a meeting, all 15 families with our lawyers. They were offering $2.5 million, he announced, split among everyone, plus a formal admission that they let the illegal adoptions happen. The room went silent. But there was a catch, he continued. They wanted us to sign papers saying we wouldn't talk publicly about the details. I said no immediately. Jonathan looked at me, started to say my name. No, I repeated. This was never about money. It's about truth. If we take money to stay quiet, we're letting them cover it up again. I looked around the room. The other mothers were watching me, waiting. Carol Jensen spoke up, said I was right. We couldn't let them buy our silence. One by one, the others agreed. Jonathan sighed. Said if we went to trial, it was a gamble. We could win more or lose everything. I vote for trial, Sarah said. Me too, David added. He'd come to the meeting as my son, officially part of this for the first time. Trial got set for September. During the preparation months, something unexpected happened. David called me out of the blue one day, asked if I was free Saturday. I was. Why? His oldest son's birthday, he said. Turning 9. The boy had been asking questions about where David came from. About family, about me. My heart stopped. He knew about me. David and his wife had told them, he said, simply, age-appropriately. But the boys wanted to meet me, if I was comfortable with that. Tears came before I could stop them. I'd love to, I said, more than anything. He said it was at 2. He'd text the address. I hung up and cried. Happy tears, relief tears, gratitude tears. Jennifer helped me pick gifts, a science kit for the birthday boy, a building set for the younger one. Not too expensive, she warned. Don't want to look like you're trying to buy their love. Saturday came sunny and beautiful. I drove to Tacoma with my stomach in knots. When I got to the house, a pretty suburban place with a neat lawn, I almost couldn't get out of the car. But then the door opened. David waved. 2 small boys peeked around his legs. I grabbed the gifts and walked to the house. David introduced me. This is Evelyn, the grandmother we talked about. The oldest, Jake, looked at me with curiosity. Asked if I was the grandma his dad didn't know existed. I laughed through my tears. That's me. Cool, he said. Like finding a lost grandmother was the most normal thing in the world. The younger one, Ethan, was shy, stayed half hidden behind David. I said I brought gifts. Jake's eyes lit up. We spent the afternoon in the backyard. Bounce house, swing set, toys everywhere. David's wife Rachel was warm but careful. I understood. She was protecting her family. We watched Jake open presents, sang happy birthday, ate cake. I stayed a bit to the side, not wanting to intrude, just soaking it all in. At one point, Jake came over, asked if I could push his swing. I sure can, I said. As I pushed, he chattered about school, friends, wanting to be an astronaut. I hung on every word like it was gold. When it was time to leave, Jake hugged me, thanked me for the present, asked if I could come back. I looked at David. He nodded. I'd love to, I told Jake. I drove home in a daze of happiness. I'd met my grandsons, pushed one on the swing, been called Grandma. All those decades of loss were worth it for that moment. The trial started in September, lasted 3 weeks. We all testified, every mother, telling our stories. The children who'd been taken testified too. Sarah, David, the others. Medical experts talked about hospital rules and how they should have caught the pattern. Former employees admitted they saw suspicious things but got threatened with firing if they spoke. The hospital brought their own experts, said Mitchell acted alone. Nobody could have known, but the evidence was too strong. End of week 3, the jury went out. Took 2 days. When they came back, we were all there, all 15 families, side by side. The judge asked if they'd reached a decision. Yes, the foreman said. We find for the plaintiffs. Mercy Hospital is responsible. We award $8 million total. The room exploded. Tears, hugs, cries of relief. But more important than the money was what came next. The judge ordered the hospital to apologize publicly, create a fund to help other victims, provide complete transparency in their adoption records from 1980 to 1995. We'd won. not just for us, for every family destroyed by this system. 6 months after the trial, we all gathered at Sarah's house for Thanksgiving. She had room for everyone: me, Jennifer, David, and his family, even some of the other mothers from the lawsuit who'd become close friends. The table overflowed: turkey, mashed potatoes, pumpkin pie, all the traditions. But more than that, it overflowed with laughter and family. Jake and Ethan ran through the house with Carol Jensen's grandkids. David talked with Jennifer about work. Rachel and Sarah swapped recipes. Jennifer came to sit beside me, asked how I was doing. Happy, I said. For the first time in forever, genuinely happy. Michael would be proud, she said. Sarah tapped her glass, called for attention, said she wanted to make a toast. Everyone grabbed their glasses. To Evelyn, Sarah began, the strongest woman I know, who lost everything and refused to give up, who fought for truth when it seemed impossible, who gave me, David, and so many others the gift of knowing where we came from. To Evelyn, everyone repeated, raised their glasses. I was crying again. Happy tears this time. After dinner, when the kids were playing and adults talking, David came over, asked if he could show me something. He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo of Michael's grave, said he'd gone to visit, hoped that was okay. My heart filled right up. More than okay, I said. What did you think? He told Michael about himself, his kids, me, said he was sorry they never got to meet, but that he'd look out for Michael's mom. He paused. Because she's my mom too. I couldn't speak. Just pulled him into a hug. Sarah joined in. Then Jennifer. 4 people bound by loss and love, making something new from broken pieces. That night, cleaning up with just Sarah and me, she said something funny. What? I asked. If you hadn't needed that surgery, she said. If I hadn't been your surgeon that day, we never would have found out. You would have died thinking I was dead. I would have lived never knowing the truth. Fate, I said. Or luck. Or maybe just the universe fixing a terrible mistake. Whatever it was, she said, I'm grateful. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Today, 2 years after that day in the operating room, I have a life I never imagined possible. I see David and his family every month. Sarah has dinner with me every week. Jake and Ethan call me Grandma Eve. The settlement money helped start a foundation, the Michael Thompson Foundation for Adoption Truth. We help adoptees search for biological families, help mothers investigate suspicious cases. We've already reunited 12 more families, and we keep looking. Because as long as there's a mother who doesn't know her child is alive, or a child who doesn't know the truth, there's work to do. I lost 35 years with Sarah and David. I'll never get that time back. Never have those memories of rocking babies or first steps. But I have now. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday, every random phone call. I have grandsons who love me. A daughter who's my best friend. A son learning to let me in. And I have peace. The truth didn't erase the pain, but it gave me back my children. It's never too late for family. Never too late for love. Never too late for truth. If you're looking for someone, don't give up. Trust your gut. Miracles happen. It happened to me in that operating room when I looked into a stranger's eyes and saw my daughter. And it can happen to you too. If you enjoyed this story, click subscribe and tell me in the comments what part impressed you. There's more tomorrow. See you there.